everyone. We are on the second episode of Where's This Going? I'm Felix Levine, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Izzy Pollak, who is an actor, director, evangelist. He also is the co-founder of Talking to Teens, which helps parents raising their teenagers. He is, more importantly and more actively right now, working as the creative director of Genies, which Genies is, I would say, the future of the virtual identity on the internet, in a way. It's also the future of interacting with friends, family, and other through having a human clone of yourself. They're the most intelligent, the best looking, and the most enhanced. Would you describe it as Bitmojis? I would say in that ballpark, we can get into it.
Yeah, avatars.
Avatars is the word.
And I'm actually no longer the creative director at Genies.
What do you know?
I'm now the evangelist at Genies.
Beautiful.
That is my title. Just to clarify, because I think the creative director role can sound like very visionary. Like it's like, what does that even mean, right? But it actually does.
So what does it? What is your role right now, and what do you do on a daily basis?
So right now, my focus is how do you connect brands with avatars? How do you find really cool ways for brands to express themselves and to empathetically and personally engage their customer base with avatars? Because like you said, it's not just this 2D like cutout comic strip version of you, the simplified Bitmoji that Snapchat has, right? That's cute and it's communicative, and they struck a note and they galvanized the idea of avatars. They popularized it very much the same way that Bird popularized microtransportation. But what's interesting is that when you're the spearhead, you have a higher chance of breaking. And while you'll pierce through a layer, it's more so opening a gap for other people to rush in. In the case of Bird, it was like Uber. In the case of Bird, it was like Uber and Lyft and all these other micro transportation people rushed in. With Bitmoji, they opened up the opportunity for moms, kids in high school, middle schoolers to all be able to know the idea of an avatar.
So you're probably most likely, I'd say the majority of the people using it are the Gen Z millennials. But I think what's also, I've toyed with the app and I've kind of checked it out. It's super easy to use. Like older people who are maybe not as technologically savvy can easily use it and easily communicate with it. And I think one of the main things that interested me was kind of how cool it is when it reacts to events. And that's kind of like a little bit mind-blowing if you think about it. That you have these, I make my own virtual identity and then I see it react to politics or sports. I think that's kind of it's crazy. Don't you do you ever feel like you're maybe kind of, some people are afraid of where the internet's going, where technology is going, that it's maybe too intrusive. What would you say to that?
I would say the same thing to that as I will say about the way I think about our president in like a large scale, like long-term geopolitical perspective, in that I think technology is anything that pushes us and stretches us as a species, as a, whatever the hell we are, as an animal, anything that stretches us and causes us to change helps us become more resilient, very much like an antidote or like an antibody. It's the reason we get vaccinated. And so I think about technology, and the way I think about President Trump, is that it's a necessary vaccine. It's like polio is a hell of a disease, but if you pump yourself with a little tiny bit of it, you're not going to get fucked by it when it turns its ugly head. And technology is incredibly dangerous and incredibly beautiful. It's like nuclear energy. It's incredibly dangerous.
Have you always been, we'll get to your acting and your previous stuff after, but have you always been this kind of, have thought about technology and have been as interested in technology as you are now that you work on it on a daily basis?
I would say I'm actually less interested in technology now than when I was a kid. I was more interested in games and gadgets and computers and the fastest blah, 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 always. And now what it kind of comes down to is, what does it mean on a human level? Like, I'm more interested in how it affects us. Being in a place that has a massive responsibility, I think, to take into consideration the problems that we can inject in people by being numbers based and by being conversion based. How do we get more clicks? How do we get more this? How do we get more that? It's a very dangerous place to be when you take out the human element. And it's the reason Facebook is addicting. It's the reason we had Russian troll farms fucking with actually currently fucking with the 2020 elections. So don't think that it's like, anyways. So most people don't take that into consideration in Silicon Valley. If you watch the documentary on Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, that she is, it's not her fault that she did all these things. Everyone's so mad at Elizabeth Holmes. She's like, how dare she do that? And it's like, it's like, what happens when you put a puppy into a home that trains for dog fights? It's like, it's going to become a vicious animal. And so what are you going to blame the dog? Is it the dog's fault? Should we kill the dog? Is it Elizabeth Holmes's fault? I don't know. So we have a responsibility, and it might be super dangerous to put avatars in between us, but I also think it brings us closer and reminds us why we're human.
Well, there's also, I was going to say that, but also the avatars specific to Genies and the way that they're kind of designed make them very likable and make them very personable in a way, which is kind of weird because you're like, holy shit, this is a human clone of a person, of a real live person. But they're designed so well that they have a really like sweet element almost. So what kind of I'm more getting at to how you guys came about this design style, if that's you, what the conversation is like when you're kind of getting to that point of, look, we're going to make these human clones, these avatars. What are they going to look like? They could look like endless things. So what does that discussion look like at Genies?
It definitely comes down to obsession and paranoia at the end of the day.
There's that one, I was actually going to talk, speaking of paranoia, Akash. So for people who don't know, Akash Nagam is the CEO and founder, or one of... Co-founder. And I was listening to an interview the other day, and he was talking about, you guys have product paranoia sessions. Tell me about it.
It's when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture. Because on a day-to-day, in any well-tuned machine, or in any, I just kind of blew my load, but in any well-tuned company, there are machine elements. There are machine modes, as we call them. We call them machine mode. And it's like, okay, we've honed in on our target. How do we fight like hell to get to that place? And when you're in those machine modes, you're like in the weeds. You're not necessarily thinking like, oh, okay, from an operational standpoint, top down, how do we execute our core objectives? You're just like, nah, fucking grind through 100 fucking cold emails and then do 1,000 phone calls and then do 100,000, text messages to a bunch of high school kids, literally, hundreds of thousands of sends or whatever it might be, waking up with 100,000 text messages, and then you're like, okay, but are we even going in the right direction? And that becomes really hard to think about unless you have those product paranoia sessions.
Yeah. At what point did you think this may actually be going in the right direction? Because I'm sure there are a lot of days you're like, oh, there's a lot of days of doubt, I imagine, especially in a startup. But when did you kind of feel like you guys, okay, this is legit, we can really do something with this?
I think you get glimpses of that every so often. And so the company's been around, for 4 or 5 years, started in Akash's dorm. But the way it's evolved into where we're at now, it's pretty much been a sprint for the last, 2.5 years, 2 years, starting with our beta back in August of 2017. And the beta is actually just about to be wrapping up. So that's going to be incredible to see because even what you've been playing with, I would say, is still like just a public beta.
Right. That's what I was saying. It's like, it's still, it's an incredible app, but it still feels like this is just the start.
The way I look at it, man, is it's like we're at the technological advancement equivalent of like a VHS tape, right?
Wow.
That's where we're at. And it's super important, I think, as humans to not forget that, because I think even on a human scale, it's like we're still literal monkeys until we start plugging robots into ourselves. But as far as avatars are concerned, we're at like VHS, and even the aesthetic of it, you mentioned the aesthetic and the personality. Like I said, it's obsession and it's paranoia. It's obsessed with the blinking. It's like all of us at a table being like, Nah, dude, like the fucking eyes, bro, like they need to be way more open. Like when they laugh. Otherwise it looks fucking creepy, dude. Like you gotta go back in there and do some like more, like 1,000 more
Yeah, so
calls with
tell me
kids.
more. I'm kind of curious because you think of like these ideas and these conversations that take place and the general atmosphere of what it's like
Sorry.
at a startup in Silicon Valley or in some of these big technological hubs.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, like, what is it actually like when you're in that office
Yeah.
and are you guys sitting around a table? Are you
Different
guys
breed.
screaming from across the room?
It's a different breed. I think the biggest thing in Silicon Valley, what they talk about often is culture, right? Culture is what's going to make or break the company because, you know, bad companies fail with adversity, good companies stay steady, and then great companies are better after they're faced with pitfalls. And Akash has single-handedly crafted a culture unlike anything Silicon Valley has ever seen, and I think we'll ever see, to be honest, because he likes to joke. He's like, I don't build companies, I build people. His whole thing is loyalty. It's familial. It's loving you until the fucking end of the earth and like seeing your potential and extracting that from you, which is greater than any product that you could ever think of. You know, it's alchemy. It's turning iron into fucking gold when you're working with people, and that's his focus. And Silicon Valley does do that, but he's outside of the dogma, you know? There's a reason we're in Los Angeles. There's a reason why he took the company from San Francisco a year ago to LA. And it's because it's important to break molds when you're redefining communication and interaction.
So I want to give people who might not be familiar with Akash and his story, and correct me if I'm wrong on some of the facts. This is just kind of a general thing of what I know. So Akash Nagam, he had this idea for Genies or to start this startup, and he wanted, correct me if I'm wrong, he wanted to drop out of school and to pursue this. And his parents were like, well, you're not dropping out of school. If you are, then you have to raise enough money to get this rolling. That's basically the vibe. And so he was like, I'm going to do it. And so he ended up raising, I don't know if that's a public number. What is it?
Yeah, it's like a few $1 million.
Cool. And so he did it. And so he dropped out and he started Genies. And here he is today. How old is he today?
27.
And it's been 4 or 5 years. So he is doing this at 22. So what do you think? I mean, you kind of touched on a few things, but what do you think makes him special and someone that you now work with? What really, like, did he sell you, or what kind of person is he for people who might not know him?
You know, I don't think you've ever met someone who is more committed to success, and the way that he signs that signature is through his work ethic, through his ability to deliver what he knows how to deliver consistently. And that's one of the things that makes anyone a craftsman and anyone, you know, a great, is the ability to turn it on when they like. It doesn't matter if you're a politician or you're an athlete or you're a musician or you're running a company like him. You find your lane and you run as fast as you can in it. And if you can keep doing that over and over, you have a career. That's what I was telling you about the scalability of opportunity. The real important thing at being 19 is like, how the fuck do I figure out what I'm the best at better than anyone else in a room 9.9 out of 10 times?
Right.
That's the whole point. It's everything that anyone should be focused on until they figure it out, literally, right? Until you figure out what that is, you should be sprinting towards that. And he did that really early, and then he just honed in on his craft. You know, since he was 14, he's been entrepreneurial. And so he has a bunch of experience under his belt. He likes to tell me, he's like, yo, Izzy, shut the fuck up and just like take in what I'm communicating to you, because I've been doing this for 10 years and I want you to do it faster than you would anywhere else. He's like, I just want you to understand and get the lessons that has taken me 10 years in a lot less time, because I'm investing in you. I'm not investing in who you'll become, not necessarily who you are. That's the crazy thing about startups. It's like, how the fuck is this, you know, motley crew of 20-something-year-olds worth a couple $100 million? How is that possible? And it's because the potential is in the hundreds of billions. As someone who were just, I can't even tell you who, but they were part of founding a dating app. This person's going to be working with us soon, confidentially speaking. And it's just one of those things that when you get everyone in your lane, when you get everyone in their proper lane, it's like you can. Since he was 14, he's like, I'm gonna shoot to the moon. He just knew it, and he's been sprinting, and that's why I work for him.
How did you first meet him?
The way I first met him, I was hired back in August of 2017 for the beta, for the beginning of our Genies beta.
As what? What was your role when you first got hired?
I was a brief writer. So they were looking for people, they were looking for like comedians and screenwriters who could help convert news to short form animation starring you. So that's what you love most about it.
Yeah.
You love the idea that it's like a personalized news feed. And so that's what we're about to drop, essentially. Because what's happening is in a few days, we're going to be announcing these personalized GIFs that help you stay current, stay relevant, and help you communicate about those things in a personalized and empathetic way. So that's the beauty of what we're about to release in a few days. That's really going to be the beginning of the Genies living off the platform, because that's really where it's at.
And there's also one other thing that I saw is there was even on the site, I think it was on the weather app, you could even have your genie like react to the weather or move, like be incorporated in that app. Is that right? There's something, and the same way it kind of reacts to events. Like when we say it's going to react to events, what's that going to look like? Is it going to come up as a notification? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, it'll be like it's like your genie just copped like Balenciaga slides. And then you'll go to the app and you'll be like, oh, fuck. And you'll be rocking them. And then you'll look and you'll be able to communicate about it. Or it'll be like there's like a storm coming. And then you check and it's like you're at Lightning in a Bottle. And it's kind of like something like who would be playing? Like Rufus Du Sol like is dropping an album, and that's how we tell you. Right? There's a storm coming and it's like Rufus Du Sol. Now you
So but does that mean you also have to have communication or partnerships with other apps or with Apple itself?
Yeah, I mean,
how does that work?
So you mean in regards to like the song rights?
Yeah. Well, yes. No. So if it's through like if there's a thunderstorm coming, how do you have your genie, or how do you guys from your standpoint have that connection with the weather app? How do those kind of come together?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the beauty of our SDK. And that kind of breaks up into what are the three elements, the foundational elements of the business. What does the company do, and how do we achieve our mission, which is creating the next human race, which sounds super crazy. But if you think about it, once they're smart enough and once they're autonomous, that's exactly what they'll be. And they'll be like little minions that help you solve anything that you're trying to do. That's the blue sky potential, right? Right now we're at the VHS level. But the blue sky potential and what it'll do.
What's the blue sky potential look like?
The blue sky potential?
Where do you see Genie? I'm not going to even go 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's say you've been here for 2 years?
Yeah, almost 2 years.
So let's say in 2 years, where is that? All right, where VHS to maybe we're hitting CDs.
Yeah, I mean, it accelerates over time, right? So it's like VHS to streaming, and how long translates to that. Like, what is the ratio now at the speed we're going? And I think what it comes down to is hopefully within the next 6 to 12 months, there's mass adoption and we're emotionally empathizing with our avatars. I think that's incredibly important. What causes you to have an affinity for this little thing? But in 2 years, I think it'll be the way that we learn and the way that we connect with digital information. And screens are disappearing, right? Like eventually, like we're not gonna have a fucking screen. Like we're not gonna have a thing in our pocket. Like that's stupid. Like we see it with Alexa and with Siri. It's super rudimentary, but voice is where everything's going. But when we start to have that digital layer that exists everywhere, when like with AR, specifically, then you have it in the way that you relate to everything. The way that you see movie ads, the way that you get invited into a restaurant, the way that you check the reviews is all going to be personalized to you. And the way that you, based on your habits, the weather, the time of day, everything's going to be personalized. Is it
possible to even get it to your mannerisms?
Yeah. I mean, I think the actions that we take are an expression of the way that we think, right? So it's like once we start just pumping that into a machine, and we create a library of your decision making, and so now we know that based on this, we should give you this.
Does that ever freak you out a little bit? Like this little thing is you're literally gonna have like literal word that you guys use often is clone.
Yeah,
like a virtual clone.
Yes.
That's a crazy. You said that to somebody 15 years ago. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
A good friend just came back from London, and something that I'm just going to drop because it freaked me out earlier tonight. He's like, they just brought back a dead pig's brain 3 days later.
Oh, I saw that.
Right?
Yeah, I think yeah.
So what the fuck does that mean? And we're not going to get into it, but it's like, that's way more daunting than like if this little digital thing is running around. Just as a sidebar.
I see what you're saying. But so I'm also curious, at what point...
Yeah, so what does that mean?
You first started as a brief writer?
Brief writer, yeah.
And then...
creating little short briefs, right?
And then how did that kind of progress?
Yeah, well, it went from brief writing, actually, all the way through the beginning of we proved essentially with our beta that people love creating their avatars. With our early beta, I would even say it's our alpha at this point, right? With our alpha or public, the beginning of our public beta, we proved people love creating their avatar and they love sharing it. They'd get these personalized little videos starring them that they'd see themselves acting out the news. I don't know if you saw, like, if Donald Trump bombed North Korea, it'd be like you and I on a rocket flying through space with a headline that says, "We're fucked. Swipe up to read the BBC article." That's how we'd frame it to you. So, you understand?
Yeah. But do you ever feel like maybe, I mean, that might be an extreme example.
Sure.
But like and that would be a serious event, that it maybe takes away some of the seriousness. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to push. Do you think that in a world where there's obviously a lot of bad shit going on, that if you have those two genies that come on that rocket and it's like swipe up, then it kind of takes away that human element of like, this is real, and it kind of strips away that real factor and makes it less real when this is actually a real life current event that's affecting a lot of people? What would you say to that? I mean, that just got a little serious for no reason, but like...
No, I think there's an important reason to explore that, but at the same time, that is like a discussion about values.
Right.
And like the discussion of how you're raised and how you're introduced to things. It's like, are you gonna give a 3-year-old like a beer? You know? It's like, I don't know. It's like, I think at that point, I hope your parents have raised you to know, like, well, that is a cartoon. And of course, yeah, it gets to the point where, like, okay, I mean, at that point, you're like critiquing South Park.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because I see it on South Park, does that like, is that how I should relate to it in the real world? And it's almost like satire. It's like a critique of satire. But I guess where you're having a problem with it is
I don't have a problem. I'm
you're bringing up. I'm
playing that devil's advocate.
Sure, no. I speak. I think one part of the culture that we have is like everything is incredibly hyperbolic. So it's like, I don't think you're demonizing me because
not at all.
No, you don't have a problem with it. But
I love the app. I'm just trying to see what the, from a creator's standpoint, like, these are probably questions that I imagine, in future interviews or future, there's always gonna be skeptics. So some things that they might say, that they might, think is a flaw with it. And I'm sure that you guys have thought about it and have talked about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily it's a flaw. I would say it's one of our biggest strengths. Mm-hmm. I think humor is like a key that opens up someone. And I think one of the most important ways that you can have a conversation or make an impact, I think about this in a theatrical way, just based on my experience because that's what I studied in school, theater and film. I would say that's really where I got started.
You went to Loyola Marymount?
Went to Loyola Marymount.
Cool. We can get back to this. You acted... When did you start acting?
When I was really young, I did musicals at the JCC. My mom would drive us, and we would do musicals.
And so...
Which is really funny. Because we didn't do sport. I didn't do sports. I did musicals. Never did sports. I had like bad joints and shit, so I couldn't do anything.
You don't do anything now? Boxing?
Athletic. A little bit of boxing.
Boxing's fun.
So fun.
I think it's the best physical exercise ever.
Definitely.
100%. Where do you do it? In LA?
Yeah, at this place called Prevail.
Okay.
Yeah, but I want to get into it with like a coach. Like I want to start.
You just do it? Oh, you just did it on your own?
No,
With a
doing
ba-
it like
with a
more
bag?
with a bag. Yeah, with a
You
bag.
gotta do it with the coach, like when they have the mitts and everything.
And I love that too. It's like a little bit of it's everything. It's like a group boxing gym.
You do any MMA?
No, I did like jujitsu as a kid, and I didn't necessarily fuck
Do you
with that.
follow any sports?
Now I'm getting more into basketball and football because of all the investors and shit that
Also,
we have.
yeah, I was. Your boys with Dez Bryant.
He's the man. He's a really good guy.
Are you a Cowboys fan? Are you any type?
I don't know
You don't-
sports from Adam. I didn't know sports from Adam. That's actually the funny thing. When Des first cruised into the office, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, dude? Nice to meet you." And like, I was like, "What's your name?" And it's like one of those funny moments. Same thing happened with fucking Lady Gaga, but at that time, I was actually giving her shit because she was giving me shit. And so
Wait, but you knew she was Lady Gaga when she first walked in. I mean, she does look a little different, I imagine, when she.
no, you know. I mean, you can't like. Bro, I was a PA, bro. I was like getting water bottles and batteries and shit.
And so Dez Bryant walks in, and you're like, "Hey, like, what's your name?"
Well, because I had no idea. But he's just a super. You know what? He is a fucking hard ass worker. That's all I gotta say.
He's amazing.
He's amazing, and he's so nice. He's such a warm dude.
I was so I'm a huge Cowboys fan,
Oh snap!
and and I remember the day he was drafted, 2010. I had gone to bed early the night before because I'm like fucking 10 years old, and I woke up and I saw that they had drafted him. I literally opened the New York Times, saw it was Dez Bryant, 24th pick. I like cut it out because I don't even know why I was a big fan of him in college, and I like pasted it on my computer, and I had it there from the age of 10 to 15, an old like newspaper cutout for Dez Bryant.
Really?
Because Dez was like, he still is one of my favorite players. It was him and Tony Romo. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Yeah. No.
Really?
No. I don't know sports.
Okay, yeah. So
Who's Tony Romo?
he was a quarterback, and now he was the announcer for the Super Bowl this year.
Okay.
And he's the
Oh,
guy,
okay, the name sounds familiar.
who's predicting all the plays before they happen.
Wow.
And so yeah, but Dez he's a beast. I was so sad when they released him, but he's a special guy. He works hard. He works hard.
Definitely. Yeah.
Have you talked? Do you know what he's up to now?
Yeah. Right now he's doing a couple of cool things. He has Personal Corner that he's developing, which is an ephemeral personalized merchandise platform. I can't really go into details about that because of an NDA, but he's doing really cool things with that. It's actually one of we're working on some stuff with him, which is pretty exciting. And he's also I think he's training to get back involved with athletics.
And so the other question I had is, you on your social media, you guys clone a lot of celebrities, and a lot of celebrities will repost. I think one of the recent ones was Pink with her new song. I think she posted her new song with her singing along with her avatar clone.
Yeah, it was she released a lyric video.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just turning on my phone.
So how does she? So
She
How
released
many-
a lyric video with her genie. She used her, with Khalid actually.
so how many celebrities, when they do that, does that mean that you have agreements with them, or that they are sponsored by them, or they just are like, Genies is cool and I want to do it?
Yeah, it's part of our verification. It's one of the values of being verified on our platform, and it's something that we really only, allow the top performers in every field. The AAA plus of whoever. Not only, I mean, of course. Someone told me recently, clout has a funny equation. From like a marketing quantitative perspective, you can quantify clout, and it's reach plus relevance. Right, and you could put both of those on a scale, and so for us, we want to add in forward leaning. How do you have someone who knows how to use digital? There's a reason SoundCloud rappers are super dope, right? And it might not have anything to do with the poetry of their lyrics.
Okay.
But there's something so valuable there. And so we're looking to plug in with people with that. So when we invite people on board, we give them access to our illustration and animation resources, and they can leverage it how they want. So we don't have a formal agreement. It's, dude, everything, another part of our culture and our company is super family, right? Dez's family, Pink is family, ASAP's family. We were talking with one of our investors. Anyways, everyone's family. So whoever you see is using it, it's because they fuck with us and they love it, and they're just on board for what we're doing, but not necessarily investors.
Okay. And so then how do you guys, what would you say is your biggest marketing strategy? How you guys get out there? Is it through those celebrities? Because I mean, you have Pink. I don't know how many Instagram followers she has, or Dez, or whoever it is. I mean, that's a huge reach.
Definitely.
So how is it just through that, or do you guys also advertise in other ways?
Yeah, I mean, I would say our biggest marketing asset is the value we provide to people. That's what we focus on. Is like, how can we help spread this message? How can we personalize this interaction? And so it's one of those things that when the product speaks for itself, when it is so valuable to someone that they'll use it as a medium for communication. You don't necessarily need to market it. It just is valuable,
And where was the company when you first came to it? How was it on a global reach spectrum?
Mm-hmm.
Where was it, and how would you quantify that with where it is now?
When I first came to the company, we were flying in stealth mode with a pre-launch $100 million valuation. And as soon as we launched, I mean, things started really cooking. With the beta, with the beginning of the beta, it was 2 million Genies were cloned by 200,000 unique users. So super small, right? And that was the start. That's when okay, we know we have something. And there was people, internationally, the App Store is released in several territories. But it was focused on definitely North American or Western news, I would say, technology business. So that's where the viewers were and the users were.
Have you branched out to more so to other parts of the world? Like, what's it like in the usage in Asia, or those more towards eastward?
Yeah, we're certainly we've planted seeds in India, in the Middle East. And we're heavily pursuing Asia right now. Akash just got back from China, Korea, and Japan. And we're building the aesthetic transformation that'll be naturalized in those regions. And so that's at the forefront of our mind of how we can integrate overseas.
So creatively, what are kind of the changes I don't know if changes or improvements that you maybe personally or as a team are kind of looking at right now?
What it comes down to is how do you continue to evolve the Genie, the core aesthetic and the personality to best match any user, no matter where they're from. And so we're getting a lot of feedback, of course, through the app itself, with all the analytics that we have and the numbers that we look at to see usage and when people fall off and what they select. And we're, of course, continuing to hone in on what's working.
It's crazy. You guys have so many possibilities. Whether it's eye color, skin tone, hair type, smile, nose, ears, like there's so much. It feels like you can really clone yourself. I don't know how much more, or you probably know better than I do. How much more can that go?
Well, what's interesting is we've dominated that side of the equation, right? So, you could always go further, right? Like, how do you keep the issue that arises, just as a sidebar, is the Uncanny Valley. And so we found a nice balance between cartoonizing yourself, but still making it, the spitting image.
Right.
It's real, unreal, as, one of our advisors has expressed it as. And that's super interesting. But what we are now looking into more so is, and we had a really incredible guy by the office the other day. His name's Jack Davis. He's the co-founder of Crypt TV, which is basically wants to be like the Marvel of monsters. And when they did a study of millennials and Gen Z, they saw that while millennials related more to the superhero, Gen Z related more towards the monster. They wanted to be fighting the power.
What do you relate more to?
Me? I don't know if I relate to both in different ways. I can walk out of Black Panther and feel like I want to fucking get in a fight.
Border of like, I'm a 2000, so you're a little older. Where do you feel like you stand? Do you feel like you're a millennial? That the term is used a little vaguely now.
There's very defining factors. I think it's like 97, you're a Gen Z or whatever. Maybe early 2000s. There's a couple different scales, but I'm certainly a millennial. I'm like a young millennial, but you also have people in their mid 30s who have, who are millennials as well. Fuck. I mean, when I was in high school, dude, and I was seeing it, the way that I felt it is that because of the way the internet came in, it's almost like radiation. It's like, here's the plant being exposed for this long, like 6 months, and here's the plant for 2 years, and here's the plant since it was born, right? And I saw while it was happening, because you don't know what the fuck dial-up is, do you?
No clue.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, but like you don't know. You never dial-up. No, you're fucking with me.
I swear on my life, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so it's like early internet. The dudes in the booth, I hope you're laughing at this shit. Shout out Rad, my boy.
Shout out.
Yeah, they're crushing it. They've, by the way, the vibes in this joint are unreal. For any of you who know,
we've got a little incense going. We've got
Santa Monica, the recording studio, Superfly, 4th Street recording studio.
5
my
candles.
Boys. 5 Candles is the album we're working on here today. And there's up in the right side of my vision for everyone at home, there's like a bunny mask. Purple
with glitter.
Purple glitter bunny mask. I think they have sex parties here when they're not recording. It is soundproof, so it's the perfect venue. I wonder how many people have been banged in here. Anyways, that's like a total sidebar. Millennials, Gen Z,
dial
and so dial up.
Me because I don't know it.
So anyways, you notice culture moving faster and faster. So you asked who I relate more to, and it's one of those things where like we were at having your foot in and out of fast internet that is super interesting because culture sped up. So I would see like the seniors are kind of like the mid 20-year-olds, like they're kind of all similar, right? But now I saw the grade above me and the grade below me as vastly different types of people.
Right, yeah.
And so I would say I probably am more of a millennial, as far as mindset is concerned and the way that I think and the way I relate to the world.
Have you always, even in talking about Genies, when I hear you talk about Genies, there's like that excitement. Where have you always had that kind of fire to do something meaningful? Or was there a point in your life where you kind of were like, okay, I need a wake-up call?
Yeah, I think the wake-up call was pursuing acting and then being like, this is a fucking shit gig.
So you
to be true, like, yeah, I mean,
so you acted for a while, and we were talking about this a little bit before. You don't ever stop being an actor. What is it about acting that you first got into, and how has acting kind of helped you in this new life of working at a startup, which I imagine you probably didn't imagine you'd be doing 10 years ago? Maybe, I don't know.
I actually 10 years ago I was trying to start a startup.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your startup?
The startup was Micro Joe's, and Micro Joe's was like a TaskRabbit competitor for micro tasks. So I need someone to mow the lawn. I need someone to pick up groceries, and it's just like you had a little thing that you needed to be done. Like it was so. I saw my mom like, we moved to a new neighborhood in fucking San Diego, and it's like she was asking the neighbors if they knew a fucking landscape person or whatever, right, or someone to mow the lawn. And it's like that's the best way.
So where'd Micro Joe's go?
Micro Joe's, my problem is I had a lot of really good ideas, but I'm not really good at execution. And so coming to this company was a come to Jesus, kind of like a rebirth moment, because I was trying to do it as like on my own and freelance filmmaking and acting. And you're just like, yo, I gotta find like some people who are doing some really fire shit so I can learn from them, because I just didn't have that. I had other shit, but I didn't have like that
So it was kind of like a perfect little puzzle match.
I told the person who hired me, I was like, I don't know if you believe in God or the universe or what your fucking belief system is structured as, but this is meant to be. It's been something that was supposed to happen long before we knew it was going to. And it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm telling you now on this call, because they interviewed hundreds of fucking people who were way more qualified for this shit than I was.
This is when you were originally
brief writer. They like came to LA from San Fran. They're like, we're looking for comedians, like funny writers. They hired, dude. There was
just one. It was just for one spot.
Nah, there was like 7 spots maybe.
But still, like hundreds of applicants.
There was like 7 or 9 spots, hundreds of applicants. Then they hired 5 of us. Then they fired 3 of us within like a month or 2. And then there was 2 of us.
And this is when this is 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
How many days a week do you work?
Like 6 or 7.
How many hours a day? Do you have like a set schedule, or it's just until I get my shit done?
Yeah, I mean, there's for sure a decompression period. So it's not like every fucking day I grind. Like, I'm not saying that. Like, but you have to. There's always something to do.
Is there that stress? Because when I think about, we were talking about earlier about the culture of a startup. The way I picture it in my mind, and you see it in some movies, is like that high stress all the time of your company. It's sharks. Like you got to beat the other sharks. Do you feel that? Do you feel like there's I mean, there's obviously competition, but do you feel it?
There's not competition. There's no one who's doing what we're doing. The competition is with ourselves because we're fighting to do what no one's done yet, right? So the only difficulty is interfacing with a world that's never fucked with this yet. So when you go into meetings and you're communicating to people and you say we're making a new human race, we're changing the way people relate to technology, and Nissan or whatever is just like, oh yeah, bro, like that's tight. Like it's Friday, we're pretty tired, but like we're down. Let's circle back. Like, but then you get into it and you're like, okay, how exactly does it work? And they become very analytical, and it's like, it's hard to interface with people who haven't thought the way that you're thinking yet, because you're trying to like educate them while you're trying to collaborate with them, which is 2 sides of the brain that don't fuck with each other, right? It's like epic theater.
Have there been other either companies or people that have tried to copy or tried to produce something similar to Genies?
I mean, yeah, I would say our pitch could totally be we're a bougie Bitmoji.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so how different, because there's also that new thing with the iPhone with that you can be like an animal.
Memoji, Animoji.
Yeah, how different, or do you guys you don't feel threatened by that?
No, I mean, I think it's super important to remember that at the end of the day, Apple is a hardware company first. I mean, they make like okay software. It's beautiful, but it's not like the dopest. But that's their thing. They're like, we build hardware, right? And Memoji and Animoji, those are both indicators to the market about, look at this dope new hardware, this true depth technology that we've developed. Look at like a fun fucking wasted time thing that you can do.
I see.
And
yeah, that is one of the things that I feel when I'm on the iPhone, or you use it. It's like this is
it's a novelty,
because like it's kind of crazy that like you have like a little like chicken, and when you start talking, it talks like you.
Sure.
But it's pointless.
Sure. Yeah, it's fun, it's cute, and they're gonna try and do some shit. I mean, like Tim Cook applied to get his, to become verified, and like. It's a different race that they're in, and for us,
is there support from Apple? Like, do you guys feel like it's not competitive, but they more want you to thrive?
Apple is focused on what they're building.
Okay,
that's their focus, and I think it's so alignment is a word that you hear a lot in the startup community, in the venture community. Alignment is like what percentage of your employees are working on what you want them to be working on.
Okay.
How aligned is it from the CEO's desk to the bus boys break time? And everything in between. What percentage of those people are doing exactly what you really want them to be, that are really moving the company forward? And so Apple is focused on being $1 trillion company and developing hardware and, expand there. How can they're doing their thing. And so it's like, for us, we got to be doing the same thing. And there's not really a lot of support from that, but there shouldn't be.
What was the biggest, Was there one particular moment that you could recall where you felt like you guys hit a wall? Or you maybe personally in your own work hit a wall and you're like, what do I do?
Yeah. I would say we probably shouldn't. I don't know if you should include this, but it was with the high school program that I met Alana on and through.
All right, first of all, we got to give a quick shout out to Alana.
Shout out to Alana
Shout out to
Alcorn.
Alana Alcorn.
She's gonna do amazing things in this lifetime.
And that family, that family is one of my favorite families. Mikayla,
The Alcorns.
Mikayla's she's her older sister.
Never met her.
Super talented, amazing soccer player. She's one of my closest friends.
Really?
Amazing.
I've only heard about this girl. I've heard so much about this girl.
About Mikayla?
Yes.
She's phenomenal.
Mikayla has been orbiting. Mikayla was kind of the impetus. Shout out Mikayla. Never met you.
Shout out Mikayla.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know you, Mikayla, but like I want to because
I'm telling you, this Alcorn family is amazing.
The mom, shout out.
The mom.
What's her name?
Kathleen.
Kathleen. Shout out Kathleen's. My girlfriend's name's Kathleen. Shout out Kathleen's all over the world.
So how do we get on the subject to Alana?
Alana, we got on the subject of Alana because you asked if I ever hit a wall.
Oh, okay.
And so the program that I met her through, which is our high school ambassador program, which is savage. Some of the smartest kids in the country. We have tens of thousands of badasses. But of course, Alana is a standout. Obviously. I feel like I hit a wall at one point in the development of that program.
So how did that, what is this, the high school ambassador? It was like, what is that? How did that come about? Or
yeah, how that comes about.
What do they do? Because I know I'll see, Alana like repost stuff on her Instagram and stuff like that. So, but what is the main purpose and goal of that?
The main purpose of that program is to create, an ambassador network of people who know about the product and can be beacons in their community to continually share information about the product, what its what its status is, and how it's developing, just so that we can continually create a dialogue between our core demographic and the company.
So does that mean, so there was a point where are you ever communicating with those high school ambassadors like, look, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, or try to communicate X, Y, and Z on your social medias?
It comes down to alignment. It really does. And culture. Because right, we don't have money to pay all these tens of thousands of students, right? All we can do is hopefully give them more value than they're putting into it. Hopefully we can inspire them and give them great fucking words and great tools and great ideas and inspiration, because I think more than anything, seeing something as possible with your own eyes is one of the biggest drivers, right? I think it's the reason why communities that are perhaps have like bad statistics around them have those bad statistics. And I think it's because it's nearly impossible to become something that you haven't seen. And so what we can do is we can talk with these kids, we can tell them what we're doing, we can tell them our story. And most of the time we're hearing from kids that they're like, that's exactly what the fuck I want to do. And I'm a kid in the north part of the city, northeast side of New York. And my parents are like, get good grades. But I'm like, I just want to build shit, or like, I want to play video games. But like, now that I see that you guys are doing this, I know that it's possible. And I know what I want to do with my life. Once you get that sort of buy-in, I'm not asking Alana to fucking story DJ Snake's Instagram post. Like, Alana just understands what we're doing, and she is down with it. And it resonates with her.
It's 100% true, because that's,
never make the ask is what I would say is the biggest part of any sort of culture building or any sort of sales, to be honest.
Go further.
So never making the ask. You're fucked when you're raising money for an idea, and then at the end of your pitch, because at the end of your pitch you have to say, and we would love to ask you for a $250,000 investment to help support our idea. You're fucked. Because really, you should be at the point in your pitch where they say, okay, I love it. I think it's incredible. Like, are you guys raising?
What's a good pitch for you?
Well, you never have to make the ask. That's the best pitch. You never have to make the ask. That's how you know you're onto something. Someone's like, all right, are you guys raising money? Just curious. Like, just by the way, are you guys raising? And when you get that in a meeting, you're like, yeah, anyways, it's besides the point. So, but yes, that's how you know it's a good pitch.
Interesting. Have there been, are you in the room, like, are you always in the meetings for when there are people trying to sell you pitch? I don't know. How's that work? Do you guys have companies that come in and want to partner with you? And how do they sell it to you? Like, what's the conversation like afterwards with Akash or whoever at the company?
Sure. What it comes down to is taking meetings from the companies that you feel like will move the needle. You know, you want to trim the fat quickly and just be like, okay, like these are like cool, but like not gonna really. Tim Ferriss says what's gonna knock down the biggest domino. You know, and so you're looking for those big domino meetings, and then you take those meetings and you're just like, yo, here's what we're doing. This is the direction we want to go in. It's really important to understand that clout flows downhill, and that we only want to work with companies that are doing great things.
What's an example of a company that you guys have recently that you guys work with that you feel you walked in that or you walked out of that meeting and you're like, they're gonna move the needle?
Gucci is a great example.
What was that? Are you allowed to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. They're one of our premiering partners when we launched the latest iteration of the Genies platform. They signed on to be the exclusive luxury goods partner.
So is that why?
luxury
Because
fashion
there's
partner.
a when you're customizing a genie, you can put the shoes, I think, and belt is also Gucci possibility. Or
Yeah,
no,
there's
clothes.
Gucci. There's clothes.
There's everything.
Hats.
So you have to and
pants.
now you have Off-White.
We have a bunch of brands on the platform.
And so that means you have to have the agreement of those brands to have them on.
Yeah, what it
Yes.
comes down to is color waves. And so we have things that inference your favorite products, but because they're not carbon copies, they're not exactly what is actually available on the market, we're allowed to infer on our platform other products like Supreme, like Off-White.
Are there actual literal Gucci products that you guys have then cloned for Genies?
Yes,
That Gucci
official, verified, certified.
that Gucci has
Said we want you to digitize these. We want you to
have
clone
they
these.
seen any improvement in their purchases from those particular items? You know?
You know, it's so interesting. That's the beauty of working with these companies who understand vision. Is you get these smaller companies who are like, yeah, what's the ROI? What's going to be our CRM, the cost of acquiring a customer? Like, what's blah, 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 all this data. And like, that's not how working in visionary blue sky operates. The whole point of redefining the future and being ahead of the curve, of skating to where the puck is going, is all about understanding that you're investing not in like a lowly conversion rate. Like it's about brand association. It's about knowing that Gucci is not only defining fashion, but also is changing the future, right? They're forward leaning. Like that's an invaluable idea.
So do you guys even have to market? Do you guys like?
Not at all.
So
We don't market.
There's zero market. You put
We
$0 in
spend
marketing.
no money on marketing.
Wow.
There's you just
That's a pretty rare thing, I would imagine, for
not for successful companies.
interesting.
That's one of the unifying factors.
Interesting.
When you have to pay for downloads, you're on the wrong fucking path. Unless you're fucking Facebook, and then it's like, okay, we got to satisfy our shareholders and blah, blah, blah. But when you're at the stage that we're at, that's a signal to the market that you are not on to a hot trail.
Okay.
They look at your P&L statement, they're like, yeah, you have 1 million users, you spend $1 million in fucking downloads. Like, tight. You don't have shit here. No thank you. You know, we're not interested in investing or acquiring, and we're not interested in being acquired. We're in it for the long haul. But it's just important to manage expectations and to signal to the market the right thing, so we do not spend any money. We're scrappy like that. We're a startup.
Where would you say the most, I guess, resources financially, but also time right now is being spent?
The biggest thing is making the Genie as awesome as it can be, making sure the user has an incredible experience when they download the app and they create their Genie, that they have several different options and that they're continually inspired to modify their Genie, and then finding where that avatar lives.
So for you on a day-to-day basis right now, what's your day look like? Go ahead. Go drink.
On a day-to-day basis, I'll let you swallow. So on a day-to-day basis, my primary focus is finding really forward-leaning companies and institutions to partner with, whether that's brands, whether that's CPG companies, retail, automotive, telecom. We're looking for dope blue chip companies, people who have the ability to change culture. You know, Ford is a part of culture. Gucci is a part of culture. We're looking for companies that are forward leaning, who want to do exciting things that we can partner with and collaborate with to help us further our mission of
What would you, if you had to
creating the
sum up
next.
your mission in 2 sentences, max?
We're creating the next human race.
1 sentence works. Wow. What are your parents? When you first told your parents you were working at Genies, what were their reactions?
They were very proud of me. They're like, that's awesome that you're getting a job, but just don't forget what your goal is of, being in movies and directing and acting. And that was their reaction.
Have they always been supportive of you when you were primarily doing acting?
Of course. Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, I graduated and my dad's like, yeah, if you're going to live in LA, you need a job, bro. So he's like, so I went and I faked my resume and I applied to a restaurant and I ran food from the kitchen to tables and did that thing for a couple months while I got my feet. And
was this your first? This was not your first official job out of college.
I did a shit ton of freelance.
Okay.
Right? I was like crashing on couches and like shooting cool stuff, shot a bunch of music festivals, did a lot of after movies for like Coachella and Stagecoach, all those fun things. And so that was like, that stuff's fun, but it's inconsistent. And it's seasonal. It's like when you work in Aspen and you're a local, you have your day job and you have your night job, and sometimes you have your weekend job because, if you're anyway, so it's not something that like can pay the bills all year round. But
Were
if
you ever
you're
nervous or stressed out?
Nah, shit always just works. Shit always just like works. One of the cool things that my mom gave me is that if you just want something, it happens. If you just want it,
But you got to want it.
you have to want it. But it happens. And sometimes you have clairvoyance. It's one of the beautiful things, I think, that my mom knows. She knows that she can make anything she sets her mind to happen just by thinking it and knowing it's going to happen. Or just being like, oh, you know what? That's going to happen.
Do you have siblings?
I have a younger sister. She's the coolest person in the world.
How old?
She is 24. 24? No, she's turning 24. She's 23 right now.
What's she up to?
Samantha Nicole Pollak.
What does she do?
Sammy is in San Diego right now, working on a unscripted cooking show for vegans called Planted.
Are you a vegan?
I'm not a vegan. I want to be someday. I will be soon. Sammy is looking into creating that pilot. We're shooting that within a month or two. And we're also, she's looking into real estate. And she loves dancing. So between dancing, real estate, and this...
What'd your parents do? Because there's a lot of like performing arts, but also like entrepreneurial side, I feel like.
Yeah, my dad is, he's always been a business guy. He worked with his dad, my grandpa, Edward Rowan Pollak, who's just a fucking legend. God damn, that guy. I love this dude. He was an entrepreneur. My dad worked with him for many years in a furniture business. Then we moved to Aspen for a few years, which is where I met Alana for the first time.
Oh yeah.
In Aspen. I just wanted like the coolest thing when you work with someone and like, especially like a kid. Sorry, Alana, but like you're young. She's like 16. She's like a kid. And so I was like, I'm working with all these kids. The coolest fucking thing is when you can meet them and you're like, you're a real person.
Yeah. Shake
their hand. And so anyways, I met her in Aspen. And it was like, I don't know, she's super cool. Brought her like these cloned hats.
Is this the one?
Yeah, maybe I'll give you this one.
Oh, let me see that.
Here, it's yours.
No.
You're cloned.
No,
You're cloned. Take it.
Dude, I was trying to make my clone. I need to make it more perfect. You're gonna have to.
Well, you're more perfect.
Like more accurate. I feel like the hair. That's actually something we're gonna talk about. My hair on it is not accurate.
I feel you. curly,
It's like bordering the Jufro.
Yeah, that's how you know your roots.
That's how you
Know your roots, Mr. Levine.
Mr. Levine. Yeah. Wait, what were we talking about?
Before Lana, Edward Roland Pollak, my dad, what does he do? Okay, performing roots. So why is there
What's your mom
performance
do?
in my blood? My mom, well, the reason we have
She's
this,
definitely a performer.
my grandpa on her side, her dad, Wayne Foster, actually named Herman Stenzler. Born blind in New York, poor, immigrant, Russian family, no money. And they sent him to special needs school and he fucking hated it. And he taught himself how to play music though. Born blind, like I said, and taught himself how to play the accordion. And one day, he was just like, I'm not going back. And I'm not going to say exactly, or maybe can you mute me? Can you beep out a word that I'm about to say? Because I don't want to spread this word, but I just want to tell you. Don't have to do it. Maybe.
Don't say that. Like, say it and then go, oh, I know, so I could hear it.
No, you know what? It's not a big deal. He just said,
tell
I'm
me
not.
after.
I can just say it. It's not that bad of a word. He just said, I'm not fucking retarded.
Oh, okay.
And he was blind. And he hated that at the time. Like, that was the thing. And, like, I hate that that's even, like, a bad thing. But he felt like his mind was solid. His mind wasn't lacking. But he just couldn't see. And so he taught himself accordion and he started winning music competitions.
Really?
He won radio competitions and in-person competitions.
Wow.
And he'd win a fridge. And then he'd win a microwave. And then an oven. And he, like, slowly started...
And this is whose grandfather? This is...
My mom's dad. My grandpa.
Is he still alive?
He is still alive. And he then like evolved from that point to like having a band. And then he met my grandma. And then they started managing bands. And then they started sending 5 bands out to all the different weddings, all the Jewish weddings in Long Island. And then it like evolved into this company, Wayne Foster Entertainment. Now he had this event company. And then he had 4 daughters and they toured around like the world playing for presidents, like playing all over the world. They have albums, right?
That's amazing.
They did a bunch of entertainment events. My mom's now carrying on his legacy with her company, and she has been a performer since she could.
Okay, so it's in the family.
It's in the family. That's
wow.
It's in the water, but first it's in the blood, or is it first it's in the water?
I have no idea. But
just fucking with you.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where it comes from. My sister is a performer, incredible dancer. She's a savage.
Wow.
Incredible voice too. My sister has the best voice.
Do you sing?
I do sing. We'll drop an album eventually. We'll come back here to Santa Monica.
We better have all those candles.
We'll do an EP. Oh, that's
5
what I'm
candles.
saying.
That's what it's called.
5 Candles. That's the album we're coming out with.
So does your grandfather still
perform? Yeah.
Perform?
Actively.
How old is he?
80 something. Wow. 83, 84. Kills it. Kills on the weekends. It's his lifeline. It's like, did Ray Charles ever stop performing? Like, no. And they'd say he's like a Jewish Ray Charles, which is kind of like his thing, I guess. And
What's his name?
His name's Wayne Foster.
So the official, there's like
Wayne Foster.
It's Wayne Foster.
Yeah.
What was the other name?
Herman Stenzler.
Where'd that
That's
come
his
from?
actual name.
Oh.
But his stage name is Wayne Foster.
Why?
Because people didn't like hiring Jews back in the day.
Wow.
Show business, baby.
Show business. And he grew up where?
New York.
Where in New York?
He grew up in the Bronx, actually. But then he moved to Long Island.
You go back to New York often?
I'm going in a few weeks.
Really?
Yeah, May 6th.
When are you going to be there?
To the 10th.
What are you doing there?
We're meeting with a bunch of investors, meeting with potential clients, creative agencies. Going to go see Sleep No More, which is an incredible experiential performance of Macbeth in a hotel. Hopefully go to The Shed, which shout out QJP, Quincy Jones Productions, Michael Latour, Thomas DuPort, Max Mason, Alyssa Smith, and the Fam. The Fam at QJP. They just opened an incredible performing arts space called The Shed. We're going to see Bjork. She has a residency there. Going to see her orchestral theatrical production. Akash, Nigam.
So who travels to most of these?
Akash.
Did he go solo?
He sometimes goes with our co-founder Evan Rosenbaum, who's just an absolute G. Evan's the smartest guy you'll ever meet.
How did they find each other?
They met each other, I think, through a hackathon or through a mutual friend. They met each other. Evan went to Wharton. Akash went to Michigan State. Evan graduated. Akash said later, and you already went over that story. Dropped out second semester, senior year. Said fuck that.
Second semester, senior year?
Yeah, later, done. And his dad's like, I'm Indian. You're raising money, or you can get the fuck out of my house. Good luck. You're dropping out. His dad was like,
also,
fuck that shit.
I mean, yeah, he's doing well. Akash is doing well, but
That's an understatement.
yeah. But I mean, like, you don't think he could have finished that second semester out?
Bro, the worst thing you can do in life when you realize something is not act as hard and fast. That's numbing your intuition.
Do you guys hang out like outside?
We're hanging out tonight. Family. It's family. It's like family.
How many people work at Genies?
We now have like probably we have 20 people, but that's spread out between San Francisco and LA.
So 20 people total?
20, 25 people, but we're about to have maybe more than that. We're bringing everyone in office.
So
we're moving offices.
I mean, is that for a startup, is that a lot, a little?
It depends, software, hardware, it just depends. So, I mean, it makes sense for what we're doing.
So you still...
Just the right size. We're super lean, We're big, but we're also lean.
And you still haven't told me what a day in the life looks like.
A day in the life. Day in the life. You wake up, destroy Prevail Boxing. Imagine all the shitty people in my life as I'm exhausted trying to punch the bag another time. And they're like, speed round. And you're just like, all right, who the fuck can I kill today? So you're like, what entity can I endow this boxing thing with to give me some more juice? Anyways.
I feel like you've never played sports. I feel like you have like the vibes of somebody who once played sport. You have like a competitive edge.
Do I?
I think so. But I think the only way you succeed in what you're doing is you need to have some fire in you.
You have to look in the mirror and yell as loud as you fucking can, and know you're psycho. Tap into your psycho energy, and then go to war.
There's nothing better than screaming into a mirror when you just feel like you look crazy. And
I need to live in my own apartment so I can do that more often. I can't where I'm at. I look in the mirror and I'm like. But my roommates are sleeping, so I'd be like super uncool to do that.
They're not at Genies, completely separate?
They're doing super cool things on their own accord.
Where you at in LA?
Live mid-city, like near LACMA.
Okay.
That was my first job. I could walk to work. Beautiful street. Been there. But now I'm looking to move to the west side.
And so I mean, as a company, we've maybe touched a little bit on it, but you personally, where do you go from here?
The natural route will be to evolve with the company, IPO, take that next step, and then eventually, hopefully just staying with my brothers and just continuing to achieve world dominance. And if for some reason...
What's world dominance look like to you?
You're like, there are a couple companies that do like amazing things on this planet. It's Apple, Google, as of today or yesterday, Microsoft is $1 trillion company. And then now there's Genies. So at that point, I think we're like, okay, we've done good. Let's either do our own thing. And that could happen earlier. Starting my own thing would be dope. Talking to teens at one point is going to be something that is important to move into the driver's seat.
Why have you felt like that's something so you're the co-founder there, as we touched upon.
But I'm sort of like a ghost at this point. I'm kind of sitting, I'm benched.
Why is that important to you?
Well, I think growing up with divorced parents, I saw all the shortcomings of someone who doesn't know how the fuck to communicate to a child. And how negative the outcome can be if the right thing isn't communicated at the right time. The wildest thing to me, and people would think that I'm on some 1985 shit, but if the wildest thing to me is that you can have a fucking kid without a license? Who the fuck thinks that's okay? That is wild to me. You should have mandatory training. When you create a human, and the people could be like, yeah, bro, like you're like some crazy, I don't even know what they would think I am. larger government, like a crazy liberal fascist. I don't know how to even categorize what you think, an authoritarian, but yeah, you should have a motherfucking education in parenting. Do this, don't do this. Even if it was a fucking packet that you could fill out and fill in the blanks, I think I should. Any direction. The fact that you don't get, you have to get a license to drive a car, but not make a human being that can drive a car and kill people and do all this crazy shit.
I never thought about it like that.
It's like, come on. Just give them a book. Give them a PDF document.
A podcast. When are you featuring?
When? Who?
Have you?
Have I been featured?
Yeah.
You know, the heartbeat of that organization is Andrew Markham Earl, Andy Earl. He's the host. Shout out Andy. Shout out Talking to Teens. If you're a parent dealing with a troubled teen, or you're just
gonna be a parent.
I guess, yeah, if you're gonna be a parent and you're interested in the best way to communicate with teenagers.
What's the best way to communicate with teenagers?
It depends on their values and their talents, right? Their skill set and their values. And yes, there's no one book to raise a fucking kid. And if I hear that from another person one more time, I'm like, you're right. You're right. But there's a shit ton of research. There's thousands of essays. There's a bunch of quantifiable, scientifically proven information about strategies and tactics to parent a teenager and how the mind develops and why it makes decisions that it does and why it wants this and hates you then. And there's evolutionary importance to your kid being an asshole. So you remember you're dealing with a developing brain, not a fully formed human. The best way to talk to a kid is based on their skill set and their values. And once you crack into that, you can position yourself in conversations. If you have a very authoritarian kid who's cutting themselves every time you smoke, obviously maybe you stop smoking. Like, a lot of it is ignorance and just like people not willing to look at themselves in the mirror first and like, what am I doing that's not holistic? But next, and you're really just dealing with a kid. Like, we had one family from down under who was dealing with a troubled kid. They had like a maybe, I'm not going to say who it was, so I guess I can tell the story. But the kid was in juvenile hall because he was a minor, and he had a restraining order against him by his primary family and no other family that he could live with. So he had to become a ward of the state because of the family filing a restraining order against him. They filed a restraining order against him because every time he'd come home, he'd break all the fucking windows in the house. Batshit, angry. And it's like, okay, fuck that kid, he should be in jail.
But
blah,
it
blah,
all
blah.
leads back to the parents.
It does. And so the conversation that we had when we consulted with them, Andy, who's a genius, artistic, scientific. Shout out Andrew. Shout out Virginia Combs, his beautiful partner in this life. She is so wonderful and smart too. She has her own podcast.
I'm telling you, your podcast is coming soon.
We got a couple podcasts. And Andrew talked with his family that was having troubles with their kid in Australia. And the dad's like, blah, 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 blah. I told him this and blah, and we got into an argument, and it always happens every single time. And it's like, okay, he's a kinesthetic learner. He learns through his body. That's why he gets expressive and he destroys things. And he values independence. That's why he's always like trying to be his own man and breaking shit and wanting you to listen and like trying to control you. He's a kinesthetic learner and he values independence. Okay, so you're not going to outmuscle this fucker. You're not. And the dad, every time he gets mad and he tells his kid, just fucking listen to me and all this shit. You're not going to win. So what do you do with a kinesthetic learner that values independence? You become vulnerable. You say, look, I didn't always have the tools to communicate with you properly. And I'm sorry if anything that I ever did caused you to feel like you had to do what you did. And I don't like that you're unhappy and I don't want you to be in the situation. And I'm coming to you now with open arms trying to figure out what I can do better as a dad. Because I obviously am just trying to figure it out and I love you and I want what's best for you. And if being in school isn't right, then that's okay. Let's send you on a trip around the world. I'll sign off that you can leave school now. I'll give you a little bit of money to get you started. Let's go on a trip. Because context is a massive problem. If you have a troubled teenager, it's usually the context, the friends that they're around, the people that they associate with. Parents are like, what do I do? I've tried everything. My kid, he just keeps hanging out with the bad kids at school. It's like, well, did you fucking try moving? Did you try changing the environment? Did you try everything? Did you try everything? Anyways, it gets back to the core. By the way, the kid now,
Yeah. So what happened with this?
great communication with his mom. He's traveling. His parents gave him permission. They had 2 minutes on the phone to communicate a very simple idea, because that's how long you get when you're in jail. You get 2 minutes. And so Andy had to break down a script of exactly what and how the dad should say what he should say to his kid on the 2-minute call, so that they could break the ice that's
how old
been
is the
forming.
kid?
How old's what?
How old was this kid?
Kid is minor. He's probably 16 or something. And so now the kid's traveling. He's on a journey. He even said to his mom, I'd love it, because I know you're traveling soon, if we could meet up and travel together for a little bit. Change the context. Understand and this is all part of talking to teens. We're developing a methodology now that we'll enact on a mass medium platform very soon. That's going to change the way parents communicate with their kids over text.
Over text.
Because that's where a lot of the communication's happening.
That's true.
So if you can take a sentiment analysis of what a parent is trying to communicate, trying to get the essence of what they're trying to say, and then run it through a statistical model that knows, okay, you're trying to say this, but you're using these fucked up words, and this is the best way based on your kid's skill.
So do you have would it be like a one-on-one kind of thing where you have one person from Talking to Teens that sits down with one family?
Yeah, we have a consultancy as a facet of what the business is doing now, but really we don't want to raise any money. We don't want to give away equity. We know exactly what we want. We know we can build it on our own. We just want to develop our core foundation, which is this method of breaking down a child based on their skills, based on their values, understanding some core principles. Andy's read every single book, pretty much, and article ever written on research. He used to work for LMU as a research psychologist, and through the National Institute of Health in 2018, he had one of the record-breaking scores on an application for a grant, ever on a first draft. He's a genius. He's like a savant. He's the smartest guy that I know. And so we're discovering what the foundational learnings are from everything that he's learned. We're taking it building it into a palatable and relatable package that is talking to teens through our educational courses, through our podcast, through our articles. And eventually we'll package it, like I said, into something that changes the way you communicate with your kid.
And so you kind of talked about this rooted from, your time in a divorced household. In what ways, I don't know, you can go as detailed or not detailed as you want, but did that really stick with you and motivate you? Wow, this might be something I don't like of what's happening.
Certainly.
I hope that one day somebody can learn from my situation. And this is why I want to now get involved with Talking to Teens.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Bunch of examples of that.
Care to share a few?
Yeah.
We love your parents, by the way. We gotta put that
I love
out
my
there.
parents?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love them. Great people. The coolest thing about growing up, because I think maybe maybe not everyone, some people go through parts of their life, and maybe they never come back from this, where I think they hate their parents, especially I think in divorced families. You're like, you guys are such fucking assholes for doing this. When you did.
What age did your parents get divorced? My parents got divorced when I was 3, so I don't even remember.
Oh, that's a very good time to do it.
Yeah, because you can't even apparently, according to my mom, I was really upset when I was young.
Sure.
Because I kind of didn't understand it, but I kind of did. That they weren't gonna be in the same house. But at the same time, and then there were times when I got older that it was still when I would get upset, I would maybe reference it. Well, that's because you guys aren't together. Or I would have I don't want to say episodes, but
sure.
I would say, I'd start crying, and I'd be like, well, you should have not gotten divorced.
Yeah.
But it's also not enough time to be like, oh my God, I remember when we went to France that summer as a family.
Sure.
That just never happened.
Sure.
So
maybe there is no good time. That's a sentiment that I've always heard. There is no good time for divorce.
Time did they divorced?
We were about 10. I was 10 or 11,
so
maybe
you
9.
still remembered going on vacation with them together.
I do have shades of that. I do. If I really think about it, I remember times very little, they're the plot points.
And is that what bothered you? Or what was it? Was there one particular aspect of having that divorced family that really got to you?
Yeah, I think it was one of the bigger things is going back and forth. between the
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
Or just the fact that like you can't, it didn't feel, and maybe we could have, but it didn't feel like I could have normal friendships because like those moments of like there's now this filter of logistics, of
Yeah.
added
Yeah.
logistics
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want to pick you up during traffic, or like, I don't know. It just felt like there was this cloud above
It's
everything.
another obstacle.
It's just another element, another variable. And shit is already difficult as it is, you know? And then the most fucked up part is that there's not this like core nest of like values and teamwork going into every moment or most moments.
Go further.
My mom had several boyfriends who, of course, want to assume the father role. But like my mom was pretty much doing her own thing to raise us, working full time, raising us. You know, I think where I get a lot of my business sense, maybe I don't have any, you know, it's yet to be proven if I'm savvy. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing professionally with my life, you know, whatever. That's a sidebar. I think is a lot for my mom because I would hear countless hours of phone conversations and, oh yeah, sure, we offer this package, blah, 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 whatever. The core of it though that's fucked up is that kids don't get both sides of the yin and yang of life when they come home, which I think is incredibly detrimental. You get too much of this sauce, or it's too spicy, or it's too sweet. You don't have that yin yang to kind of balance you out, you know? So you get weird values. You learn warped values. Mom's always saying yes. Dad's always saying no. But when I'm at mom's house and she's always saying yes, there's no one to be a counterpoint. So you do a lot of this and you're like, why the fuck am I so extreme?
So you feel like it's brought some like extremity to you?
Oh, well, my parents are very extreme and in the opposite ways, but in like ironic ways. So, yeah, I feel like maybe it's kind of dope. I don't know, for parts of me that I have these extremities. There is no good and bad, right? There isn't. There's just point of view.
Right.
Is it allies or the axis? Well, it depends if you're on the allies or the axis. So there's good and bad with everything, you know. You just gotta hopefully, and I think Dave Asprey, who's like the founder and mind behind Bulletproof, the company and the laboratory, is all about like you have 24 hours in the day. Like how many of those are you gonna dwell on the bad shit that you were dealt, or like relish in the beauty of all the goodness that you have?
I'm more, yeah. Did you have, as a kid, was there ever any anger that stemmed from the divorce, or what?
Yeah. You're pissed as a kid. I don't know. Maybe less for girls. I don't know. As an 11-year-old kid, I was pissed. Dad, you know, mom's like, let's put him on drugs. My dad's like, you're not putting my fucking kid on meds. Like, he's sad. Like, the kid's sad because we're divorced. We're not going to medicate him, you know? And so there is anger associated with that. And even like that shit, I'm still working out and I'm looking for a shout out. Negin, my girl from San Diego, who now lives in LA, psychologist, incredible person, smart, really smart girl. Shout out Negin. She's like helping me navigate finding my own psychologist now. It's something I've gotten over. I think I've been able to disassociate from the crazy shit my mind thinks about a little bit better now. But it's like entanglement, which stores itself in your body. It's something you got to learn as an actor. The emotional trauma gets stored physically as tightness or whatever.
So do you feel like acting was kind of your outlet?
Acting was a really good way for a kid that felt like he could never get attention the right way to get attention in a way that was rewarding. You know?
Would you say you wanted that attention?
Yeah.
Was it because of a lack of at home, or was it because you just wanted attention from your peers?
I felt like I could never really connect with people or like make deep friends. You can now? A little better. I think I understand the field that I'm playing on better, you know? So I think I can relate a little bit better to people. But acting is great because you can stand up in front of the fucking class and do crazy shit. And if you're good at it, people like are drawn to it like a moth to the fucking flame. I love getting reactions out of people. I used to love getting reactions out of people, less so with all the performing arts stuff that I was obsessed with for a while. And so,
What was your favorite role? I saw your actually. I was looking at your on your site, izzypollak.com. Go
shout out izzypollak.com.
check it out.
Don't visit it. Stay away. I don't know why the website's still live. It doesn't represent who I am.
It does. There are two things that
It's like a time capsule.
that stood out. There, well, the highlight reel. I like that.
The acting one?
Yeah, go check it out. And
shout out actors.
And the other one that was really good was the promotional one for Genies. It was very well done.
The one that we
guy
directed
sitting on the toilet.
Huh.
And all his friends that are coming to life that he's like texting through the avatars, and then like they all start coming to life, and then there's like a disco ball, and then they're all like, kind of like dancing in the bathroom while he's just sitting on the toilet. That was you? Not you sitting on the toilet, but you directing it.
Yeah. I'm glad you dug it. You understood it. That's one of the things that when you're making shit, you're like, is people gonna get it?
So
are people gonna get it?
Do you make all the promotional stuff for?
Currently, the creative mind behind a lot of the aesthetic and the content.
So what? Okay.
Yeah.
We've been talking this whole time about Genies and like kind of brushing up on your role. What? We're gonna ask it straight up.
Sure.
What do you do?
Yeah. My goal, my job, is to find cool partners to create dope content with.
Okay.
To create great experiences with.
So you're not one of the people that's behind the computer all day.
I'm not programming. I'm not animating. No. I mean, I'm behind a computer and behind the phone, making calls, sending emails, establishing rapport, building. You hit the nail on the head. You're like, there's so many applications for Genies. Like, it's endless. Yeah, there are. When you're making this new layer, the thing is that we want it to be ubiquitous. It can be used everywhere.
It can come up on every single app, the way you think about it.
Everything. It changes the way you interface with digital information. So I'm just consistently on the phone and on LinkedIn and reaching out to people, trying to find companies that are like, yes, we want to connect to Gen Zs, millennials. We want to relate. We want to find that cool factor. We want to create content or experiences for our customers in a unique and exciting way. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's not cool. That would be interesting. Okay, how can we get there? How do we, when you drive up to McDonald's, how do you see yourself pop out of an Oreo McFlurry and say like, don't you want to add one for 99 cents? Like, that's what we're on. That's what I'm looking for. I want to change the way people relate. And social media content is part of the relationship that we form with people because social media, digital media, I should say, drives everything. But it's all about how do you find cool, interactive, and personalized, empathetic digital experiences? How do you make those for people? How do you find companies that want to do that? And it starts with social media because that's how we relate to it now, but that's just like the first step.
And what kind of, I'm sure a shitload of companies want to work with you.
Thousands of inbound we've gotten, and we're pre-announcement for what will be the world's first avatar agency.
So when you say avatar agency, that just means
we have a roster of the top performers in every field's avatars, and companies can work with those avatars in the same way that they can work with talent. So McDonald's can come and say, we would love to work with Jared Goff's avatar. He's such a chill dude. Nice dude. That's the cool thing about working at this company. And especially not knowing shit about sports.
I was about to say that.
It's like he hit a home run?
Yeah.
They're like,
because maybe that's like maybe you are the perfect match for this company. Because personally, like if I saw Dez Bryant, I'd be like a little fangirl. Like I'd be like, oh my God, Dez, like I've loved you since I was 10. But like, I think it's perfect that you don't know about sports.
I'm blessed.
Because you see them and you're like, Dez Bryant, like, what do you play? What's your name?
Yeah. He was in the major leagues, I think. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He had a few home runs.
Couple.
There was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, there was one question I actually had going back to talking to teens.
Let's get at it.
There's one more.
Where will this go?
Where's this going? It's the name of the
Oh
podcast.
my God.
Where is this going?
Where the fuck? We could write a song. I like Where Is This Going? Do you have music yet?
Yeah, you got to listen to
I'll
the
hear
final
it.
product.
Okay, I'm
We've
excited.
got Havana Instrumental. Shout out Robert Mendoza.
Shout out Robert Mendoza.
Streaming on all platforms, iTunes and Spotify. It's a great song, and it does like the little intro, and then we have, but you'll listen,
I'll hear it.
and then anyways, talking to teens. The question I had.
Yeah. Sorry for distracting you consistently.
How do you think? I mean, yeah, maybe you're still. I mean, I don't know what you do, but how do you think your experience is gonna shape you? I mean, potential father one day. How is there? Because I feel like, you know, for somebody to get involved in something like talking to teens, or like you actively are. I mean, maybe you're not there as much as you want to, or whatever it is, because of Genies, but you still like going out of your way to do it in some capacity. Do you think that it's going to touch you in a way that's going to also affect the way you maybe one day are a father?
Well, I think it is unquestionable that I'll for sure have Andy Earl in my ear being like, you shouldn't do that. You should probably do that, you know, along the way. And, you know, it'll be through osmosis that I learn a lot of the lessons passively,
Right.
just by hearing all of it. I think hopefully this whole chapter of life, you know, when you're in your mid-20s, I'm 26 now, and this whole period, I feel like for me, is like, how do I get my shit together to be a dad? It's not like a number one, but it's in the back of your head. I'm like, I got 6 years before I'm having kids. If I think about it, it's a college and a half.
It's a college and a half.
Right. And so I'm certainly thinking like, I certainly want to be fit. Like I want to be vegan. Like I want to kick a couple of habits. I want to instill a couple of habits. I want to work through some of the demons that I got. And so I think for what it's worth, I think some of these adverse experiences that I have had in my life hopefully have primed me to be a better dad than if I wouldn't have had them. I hope that that's the case.
What's the biggest adversity you faced in your life?
A failure to execute. It's my biggest problem.
How do you, on a day-to-day or on an active basis, do you try to work on that ability to execute? Because you're like, I'm sitting with you. This is the first time we've met. How do you think you could get better at executing?
Well, I've started in a fairly unsuccessful, but definitely a step in the right direction sort of a way, to make a checklist of what I want to execute in a day. I usually don't finish the checklist, but every day I write down, start a task, finish it, and then the date. My ADD is probably the worst. It's not, I guess, that I don't execute. It's that there isn't follow through 100% of the time. Right? I feel like, fuck, man.
You feel like you do something, you'll do something halfway or 90% of the way, but you'll never finish it? Or is it something else?
I kind of have to be prodded into taking something as far as I can, which is a really bad quality. I feel like I jump ship. I don't have that internal governor. It's something that boxing is really teaching me.
Really?
Yeah, when you're training and you're tired and they're just like, dude, like, I don't know. That sort of, I don't have that competitive nature necessarily with myself. Like, come on, motherfucker. Like, one more. Do one more. Like, keep going.
You don't have that?
I don't have it as much as I wish I did.
How do you think you get that?
I think there are several ways you can get it, but one way that I'm trying to tap into that energy, of course, is just being around the environment that I'm in. You know, we're in an environment that demands that. But you got to find it in yourself. There's no one else that can teach you. And so through boxing, you know, being around people, there is when I'm in the fucking gym and there's like the fat dude to the right of me, whatever, and he's like giving up, you know, there's something inside of me that consistently activates in moments where I feel like, I don't know what the fuck it is, when like I need to show up for someone else. It happens in my life consistently. There'll be a stranger suffering, there'll be something crazy happening, and I show up. I'm there and I just activate. I don't think. I don't know why the fuck I do that. And it's like tapping into that more often. When I see someone else in need, it brings the best out of me. It really does. And I think
So you
it's
kind of forget what you're doing and maybe help that other person.
immediately, I can't control it. It's like I'm being possessed. And it happens whenever the fuck shit is hitting the fan. And it might fuck me one day, but I can't help it.
Are there some of, because that you earlier on you were kind of talking about,
Which is probably a derivative of the divorce, to be honest.
yeah. Earlier you were talking about how at Genies it was kind of the perfect match because you had all these ideas and you just needed, somebody or something to execute it. Do you feel like,
I wouldn't even say, I would say necessarily that. I would say more so it's like I was a really dope ball of clay who like didn't know what the fuck to do. Like I was like, should I be an actor? Should I be a director? Here are some good ideas. Fuck. Like I want to do tech.
It's a product of overthinking.
Part of it is procrastination through like thinking that I'm a perfectionist. Part of it is not acting fast enough. Any idea has a shelf life and you have to act fast. You're beating the boredom curve with yourself before you're dispassionate. And I get halfway through a thing and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I didn't get that lesson that I think I would have had if my parents were under the same roof. That's when you start something, you finish it. I never got that lesson nailed into my fucking head. And it is really unfortunate. But at the same time, it's brought me to where I am now, and I'm slowly learning that lesson.
Do you think somebody like Akash, who executes, how do you think he's influenced you in that regard, or what have you learned from somebody like that who you obviously hold in very high regard?
Sure. Shout out Jake Becker, the world's first avatar agent. And I would say more truly the creative director. We both shared that role for some time, but he definitely separated himself in the last year as being a true creative director for the company, defining the aesthetic of the social media, so on. Shout out Jake Becker. I've learned mostly from him. I would say that follow through. He, more than maybe anyone I know, is a master of follow through, a master of like, that's my goal. And he just gets hit and persists and hit and persists. And whether it's in, he just, and maybe sometimes to a flaw, like a flawed point. But yeah, I learned that mostly from him. And he, it creates tension between us because I'm a lazy ass and he's like I'm not lazy, but like I definitely have this problem, right? And so he's been the biggest role model in that regard.
And what is one thing that you, other than this, that you really want to learn from a maybe professional aspect, personal aspect, to, I don't want to even say to be better at, but to improve, that you think that'll take you to that next step? Because I feel like you're, especially in this kind of environment and based on the kind of person that, at least that I, from this hour and a half that I've been here talking to you, you're hungry for that next step.
Certainly.
Like what maybe it's a characteristic, maybe it's a physical thing, maybe there's something that what's going to bring you to that next level, where you're going to be more in tune with yourself and reach that higher success professionally, but also mentally.
Listening to that quiet inner voice when it comes, striking while the iron's hot and not acting out of fear. But really what it all kind of boils down to is simply waking up with the boxes that I know I got to check, checking those boxes, and at the end of the day being like, yo, were those the right boxes? And then reevaluating from there.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
36.
Daddy Izzy. Father Izzy.
Yeah, I guess I have a 4-year-old. Hopefully,
You're set on this 32 being the time. It's at 1.5 colleges.
it's exactly. And what you're saying is 2.5 colleges away.
Holy shit.
So a high school, college, and a master's degree at USC. But not the kind that you do on the weekend. Like full time. 2 years.
So where you see yourself, father of...
After high school, college, and a master's
Yeah.
of time? 36.
This is a quick therapy session.
Yeah. I haven't had vision. I haven't been focusing on that.
I mean, maybe that's better. Maybe you're living more in the present. No?
Hopefully by that time, I will be able to enjoy the ability of getting my work done and also having time for creative expression that is out in the world and being enjoyed. That would be the ultimate, being able to honestly be in like on a massive property in Colorado or Montana or something and wake up and work on a sick creative project and then being able to release it into the world. I really want to not have to worry about money. It plagued a lot of my childhood with my mom specifically. I saw her really suffering with financial obligation and responsibility and all that.
That's something... Yeah, how much does financial aspect weigh your decision-making in your profession?
Too heavy.
Really?
Yeah. I'm very much sent on establishing financial independence as a number one priority.
But I mean, I guess the good thing is that at Genies, you have a job, but you're also financially there's revenue, but there's also that clear drive and enjoyment for what you're doing.
Certainly.
I mean, you love at least from the vibe that I get, you're passionate and you get into it when you're talking about your products and the things you do on a daily basis. So, yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know, I'll be 10 years.
Yeah, 29.
We're gonna come back here.
29, 36.
Oh, we're even talking about me, man. Oh yeah, 29, 36. We'll be back here, and we'll do episode. Actually, come back whenever you want, man. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, you come back whenever you want, and one day we gotta do you and Akash. I feel like that's a dynamic duo. I feel like
he's the man. I would just be quiet. I'd listen the whole time.
Really? Are you a good listener?
I think I've gotten better at it.
Do you think it's because of your time at Genies and working with people like Akash and...
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that when you're communicating with anyone, you have to hear past what they're saying. And, that's a big acting thing is like, what's the subtext? Like, what are you really saying? It's like, I gotta go. But are you really saying like, fuck you? Or are you really saying like, I'm sorry, like, I just can't do this anymore. Right? Like, we're done. When you're saying, if you simply have the line, I gotta go, what are you really communicating? And so in business and sales, everything is subtext. Oh, well, our bicycle is at a glacial pace and, it's just one of those things that, like, we're really interested. And we can circle back, when the time is right. Like, that's me putting them on mute and saying, like, fuck this call's done. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one is ever saying what they're saying. And so that's a big thing is listening past way. That Akash.
Is he direct? When he
Yes. Very direct. Very direct. And
do you think somebody at that level and somebody who's truly successful, they Akash or shout out Akash, putting you in the same category as Elon
shout
Musk.
out Akash.
But like the Elon Musks of the world, or the Zuckerbergs, like those people, they have to be direct. They have to tell you what they're actually thinking to get shit done. Do you feel like that's something that you've really seen being at a startup of this level?
Yeah,
there's no bullshit.
there's no bullshit, but also there's, you know, you have to be able to flip when it's such a intimate environment and so high octane. You got to switch between family and business. It's like, yeah, right, I'm Blueface, baby, like face of the West Coast, and then it's like, if we don't ship this fucking thing by next week, I'm gonna fucking kill you, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, not really, but like, it's high stakes. It's a multi-$100 million
Do you ever
tech
feel that
company.
pressure? You feel like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. You know, the best way of
How do
putting
how do you take on pressure?
depends what sort of pressure. But I'm pretty good with pressure. You know, I think the best is probably brought out of me when I'm put under pressure. Unfortunately, I wish I had that self-governance. But when someone else is enacting pressure, man, like my best work came at 5 a.m. before the essay was due or the fucking documentary or the film was due. And it's like I'd been up, you know, however long, but it was never finished and it wasn't polished, but it was dope as fucking unique. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to tap into right now. It's like, how do I put that on myself? That pressure.
I think that's a pretty good place to end. I just want to give you, first of all, you are welcome whenever you want to come back. You, Akash, Andy, whoever, all your guys.
All the boys.
No, I genuinely want to actually thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, man, of course.
This is actually our first time. We got one more shout out for Alana.
Shout out Alana Alcorn.
Because I was in New York a few weeks ago, and I was telling her that I was going to start this podcast. It was something that I was really interested in, and I don't even know if Genies wasn't in the same conversation, but she was just telling me like, oh, have you like heard of Genies? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, like sometimes I'll like repost their stuff. And then she told me like, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I actually never heard of Genies before. And so she tells me about Genies, and she tells me about what her relationship is as like a high school ambassador, whatever the title is. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of dope. But like who do you know? Like who could I contact to talk more about it? And she put me in contact with you. So big shout out to Alana. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to her for making this happen. Shout out to 4th Street Recording Studio. Shout out to Izzy Pollak for being here.
Shout out Felix Levine. Guys, the professionalism on this guy, super put together. You know, hey, it's this time work. Totally understand. We can get a studio here. I don't even know. It's almost like, it's like a mind blow to me when people are like, yo, this is going to happen and it's going to be like this. And then it actually is exactly like that at that time. Like that's very rare, especially today.
I appreciate it.
And Felix here has his shit together enough on the show that may change its name to Where the Actual Fuck Is This Going?
Ooh. I'm open to name changes.
No, I'm not going to do that to you. I love whatever you're doing. This is awesome. Shout out Felix, you know, putting the stake in the ground, saying he's going to do something, following through. 19 years old. He's going to do big things, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out Felix Levine.
Thanks, man. Hey, that's a perfect way to end.
Boom.
Boom.